feel like we haven't done this in a long time, for some reason.
It's because you were doing all that philanthropy work in Southeast Asia.
Oh yeah. That's probably why. No, but assalamu alaikum everybody.
Walaikum
Special shout
assalam.
out to Musa, because
Hey, bro, let me tell you, this kid Musa, bro, looks so fly.
mashallah,
Mashallah.
is that guy. But yeah, let's just get it going.
All right, welcome to my pie. Today's discussion, or topic, if you will, is about, I guess you can say, the difficulty of raising Muslim kids. Raising kids in general, but specifically Muslim kids in the world or Western society that we live in today. Okay, Hisa, please take the floor. Take the floor, man.
So I guess just to further the introduction just a little bit, we had we're like briefly talking about it yesterday, and we were just, we're kind of becoming of age where it's like, you're about to get married, right? And you eventually will have kids, inshallah. And we were just kind of discussing like some of, our childhoods and stuff, and like how we were brought up, and it's like I believe that it's way different now, right? A lot of these, one of the things that you were saying that Abdurrahman said was like, the previous generation, some of them it's their first time.
Yeah.
Here in America. And
Yep.
so a lot of them, I think, were underestimating how influential the culture here is on their kids, especially at a very young age. And we were born here,
Yes.
grew up here, participated in a lot of the things, public schools, and, just the crazy stuff. And so we understand, we get it, or at least to some extent. And so because we have this understanding, what do we do with that information? How do we take that information and in some ways benefit it in regards to, protecting your children from it, or presenting it to them, like you were saying, like in doses almost,
Yeah.
just to. So what's your main concern, with like.
I mean, I'm terrified of having kids, bro.
Period?
I'm just scared of having kids because I know it's going to be tough, because I see how kids are being brought up nowadays and how just easily influenced, and how they're not really proud of the deen. They're embarrassed by it.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to be cool, and people don't know how to think for themselves in general nowadays.
Why you say that?
I just think like it's people can't formulate their own opinions about things. Their opinion is usually somebody else's opinions. Even
Oh, yeah.
even sports, bro. Like you talk about somebody about sports, and they're gonna say what they heard on like ESPN or something like that, or no,
Yeah.
I think Carmelo's gonna be. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like most people can't just sit and the reason being is because they don't have the knowledge, so they trust the knowledge of other people,
yeah.
and that becomes their own opinion. And with that being said, when you have a teenager growing up and they look up to all the cool kids or whoever the celebrities are,
Mm-hmm.
and the celebrities of the school and the celebrities of, I guess, society,
Mm-hmm.
and that pull and that influence is so big, so it's like one of the things we were talking about yesterday is when you have a kid, it's not enough to be just a parent nowadays. You have to be their friend as well. And even then, we were also talking about like you have these situations where there's like trouble in the household, and you have a parent yelling at the kid, telling them like don't do this and this, expecting them to not do those things. Do you think they're gonna listen to you, or they're gonna listen to their friends? They're obviously gonna listen to their friends who understands them and be like, man, they it's kind of funny because it's like in a way it's like it's similar to like the the way like shaitan kind of whispers are.
Yeah.
It's just that's like a physical manifestation of what shaitan does.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we'll give that friend, or give your sons and daughters, like they'll give them like that positive support,
Mm-hmm.
like I got your back. And that's like You know, and this is how like the whole like, gang, how gangs start is from that kind of like, it's
And
like it on the outside it's masked by brotherhood. I got your back. Like, don't worry about nothing. Like, it's like we're gonna make it together. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So it's like, it's
attractive in some ways.
it's like a poison,
Yeah.
and it's a spell even. They get put under this spell. And a lot of people, give this term like identity crisis and wonder why it's happening, even after they put their daughter or their son in the supposedly best schools and a Muslim community, nice area, and they wonder why their kid stays away from Islam. It's like you can't just work a good job and provide them with sustenance. That's not enough. Like, you have to be the
Involved.
number one influencer in their life.
What do you think is the number one influencer as far as like all of the detrimental type of influences that your kid will come by? What do you think you feel like is the most detrimental?
I think they're friends, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Where do the friends get it? Who knows? It could be they have a chill like parent or something, who's like not a good parent,
Mm-hmm.
but a good friend to their kid. So they introduce their kid to things they shouldn't introduce their kid to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so then
And
that kid
brings it to school.
brings it to school,
Yeah.
and then it spreads.
Mm-hmm.
But
One of the things that you had mentioned just like right now was like the schools, right? It's
yeah,
like so I agree with you in a lot of ways, but just to like piggyback off that, like to me that's like a big deal, right? So I've been every type of school. I went to literally every school, right?
Islamic school and
Public school, homeschool, charter school, any type of school. It's like I was in it, and I remember very, very like
how the
clearly
people acted and how
just the environment.
ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, man, I can tell you right now, public school is no joke.
Yeah.
It's no joke, and it's like I don't think people really. I think a lot of the adults that I know or my friends' parents
Are oblivious.
I don't think that they truly comprehend the severity of it. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like prime time, right? These kids are teens, young adults.
They just want to vape, bro.
That's all they want to do is vape. No, but I think it's like prime time for like, I would say that you will, like your very early years, I would say maybe 5, 6, 7. Those are probably the most important years
of your life.
As far as developing just your core morals and stuff like that, I think
That's that age when like kids very easily believe in like whatever you tell
whatever you tell them, right? You tell them
So-
Santa Claus is real. It may take 10,
exactly,
15 years to get that out
and
of
they'll,
them, right?
they'll be shook when they find it.
They're like,
what?
What's
Holy
going on?
crap.
Yeah, there's like videos online about
Yeah.
that. But so I think those years are extremely important for that sort of development. But I think
So piggybacking off that,
real quick,
Okay.
because I wanted to say about the teens, right? It's
Okay,
like,
okay.
that high school years, I think that is more important in a different way. It's like you're becoming independent in these years, right? You're in school a lot longer because a lot of times you're joining after school programs and you're away from home and, you're finally driving, you finally get to go out. And so your influences, I think at this time really determine who you become as a young adult. And so I think high school in particular, choosing the right school is so important, bro. Like for kids at that
Or
age.
choosing a homeschool for that matter. And
Man, it is crazy. But yeah, continue what you were saying.
I was just gonna say, those early ages, whenever parents kind of see, they don't really understand the child mind, that the way that it's actually developing.
At what age you mean?
Just very young, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Uh-huh.
They see a kid who, let them have their fun now. I'll teach them later. That's
Okay.
the kind of mentality people have. So it's like
true.
celebrating holidays, for example. Islamically, there's only 2 Eids. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yet people are like, I feel bad for my kid. Like everybody, all his friends are doing Thanksgiving, trick or treating, some people even do Christmas, you know what
Mhm.
I mean? So it's like, let them just have a present or something like that. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so you're already planting a seed in their head. And the moment they become a little bit older and, you'd be like, you're too old. Like, Islamically, we can't have birthdays. Um, and they'll be like, why not? Or like Islamically, you can't, we can't, like, we're not doing Christmas. Like, there's no way we're doing Christmas.
Right.
And they'll be like, why not? Like, you let me go trick or treating,
Right.
and be like, oh, well, you weren't supposed to, but you let me do it.
Mhm.
Like, why can't I do it now? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they get upset. It's like, like, to them, they don't understand. Like, they're like, so you're almost a hypocrite now,
Yeah, for sure. I
And
mean,
because to them, they're like, I had fun. Like, I love doing that. I
Yeah.
was out with my friend. Like, we TP'd this person's house.
yeah,
It
for
was,
sure.
you know what I mean?
And the crazier thing is that, at that age, it's like that can turn into a much bigger problem later on. It's like now,
I'm saying. The
not
seed
only
is
does
there,
your
bro.
not only does your kid upset with you about not allowing to go, your kid may still go right like out with friends secretly, and so
Yeah.
now you have two problems on your hand, and maybe even a third, because this starts to become like a habitual thing, right? It's like your kid is developing bad habits where it's like, I'm getting away with going to Halloween, I'm gonna go to this Christmas party, you know what I mean? So that could be like a serious thing. But I think that's one thing that I feel like that's one of those things where you just have to be saying it, and and actually being someone's parent is I'm sure it's very much different. One of my closest friends has a son, and his son, whenever he was a baby, good kids,
Yeah,
just wild. He's a baby boy, and just wild. But as he started growing up, he started to like hit people a lot. He would just like hit people, and my friend, I would tell him, I was like, look, man, I'm about to whoop this kid. Like, I'm about to whoop this kid if you don't. And then he'll be like, man, yeah, you're right. Like, and so he'll just be like, hey, so and so, stop. You need to relax. And the kid is like, would even hit him. You know
Wait,
I'm saying?
what do you mean hit him? Like, just very rough housing?
No,
all
no,
the
no. This
time?
kid would just straight up just. I was praying one time. This kid slapped me in my face. The boy. But this is
How
whenever
old?
he's.
He was a baby, or was he?
No, no, no,
older?
no. This is as he got older.
He was like 10.
No. He was still like a toddler. But
Oh,
I'm just sort
okay.
of like picking it back up. It's like he's not a toddler anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, he's still a toddler, but he's a boy.
So it was like cute before, but
It
now
was
he's
cute
still
before,
doing
and
it.
now it's like, and I feel like I'm never gonna tell somebody how to parent their kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's like, man, that's crazy. Like I remember telling him one time, I was like, look, man, your kid is spoiled as heck. You got a spoiled kid, and I feel like you don't whoop your kid enough, and I feel like you don't discipline him. And the kid loves his dad more than anything in the world. He looks up to him and all this, but he knows that he can get away with a lot of stuff.
Okay.
A lot of stuff. And I feel like now it's far past the point where it's cute. You know what I mean? Like, it might be a thing where it's like people are not just going to take it and slap in the face. I can get slapped in the face 100 times by a kid. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me. But there might be another kid at the school, he just slaps in the face and he gets jumped. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And now it's like a big deal. And though I feel like this is the developmental stages.
Yeah.
The age that he's at right now, it's very, very, it's developmental. I mean, I have another friend who I feel like he was born rich, or
Yeah.
not born rich, but as a kid, he was wealthy. And I feel like nowadays, this kid is like probably the most spoiled kid that I know, and he like will even throw tantrums. Grown man, not grown man, but he's like 20s. It's like this kid will throw tantrums about stuff like that.
Man.
I'm just like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and I feel like it's very difficult to change him now, because as a kid,
Oh, for
he
sure.
grew up
That's
a
not
certain type of
happening,
way.
and they don't realize what they're doing is
They
like.
don't. They think it's
they
love.
think
They
it's-
think that
they
they're like,
think
man,
what
I
they're
don't
doing
want to
is-
discipline my kid.
But the kid themselves thinks that like what I'm doing is normal. Like
Absolutely.
like
If that's how
I
you
have
grew
the
up.
right to like have a tantrum right now. Like why
Absolutely.
shouldn't I throw a tantrum? Like
Yeah, they've been doing
'cause
it for
that's what they've
freaking
always been
25 years.
since they've been a little child.
Yeah, it's like a crazy thing. But what do you? We kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday. But this, I don't know what has happened to the world, or at least in Western culture. But apparently, whooping your kid is like
frowned
the worst
upon. And that's
thing.
another thing about public school is like in school in general is teachers can't discipline kids anymore.
I think it is still legal for teachers to spank kids.
Is it?
In some states? I think. I read that somewhere.
All I know is that if somebody did that, like
It'd be havoc,
it'd be havoc, man.
bro. The kid would probably punch the teacher back or
The
something.
problem is like nowadays teachers can't, a lot of schools like they have this whole like you can't fail the kid thing. You know what I mean?
Oh
like
I was literally talking about that with my mom today.
and so now kids know they no matter what they do,
You cannot threaten them with anything.
you can't threaten them with anything, and the parents aren't gonna do anything. You know?
For sure. At Dollar, so today I was helping my mom grade papers, and there was one paper that I was like laughing to my mom. I was like, this girl didn't do anything. There's literally nothing on the page, and my mother had told me. She said, oh yeah, like this is a normal thing. She never does her homework because she feels entitled, because apparently the little girl's father
Knows the principal, and they pay a bunch of money to the school.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
That might be the case because he is like wealthy. But the thing is like he believes that his daughter should just be passing no matter what. So he actually comes up to the school and is like, why does my daughter have 0? Why does this? And he doesn't care about her actually doing the work. He just cares about her passing.
Because they don't see those ages, like that young age, to be vital at all.
Yeah, that's
they're just
insane to me.
Like they don't, you know what I mean? And my sister was telling me the same thing. She's like, these kids don't even know the alphabet. Like they don't know how to like write full sentences.
Yeah.
And they're like in 5th grade or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's it's like the parents think like these years are just the fun years. They're just there just to be there.
Yeah.
It's just babysitting. It's just daycare.
Yeah.
It's like once they go to middle school, then they could start learning.
No,
like,
it's not like that. Apparently all these kids, my mother teaches 2nd grade. All these kids are like a year or 2 behind.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do anything. And the
That's
craziest
the parents' fault.
The craziest thing about it, I think it's the school's fault as well.
It's the administration
You
and the parents, because the parents aren't disciplining the kids,
Mhm.
and the parents don't want the school to discipline the kids.
This is what I think. I think it doesn't matter if the parents discipline the kids or not. I mean, I'm sure it is the parents' fault. You should want your kid. You should be involved with your kid's academics. But the school should not be allowed to pass kids that don't have passing grades. And one of the rules at the school is that you can't give students 0s. You have to give them 70s. How does that make sense? So basically what you're saying is I can be a student that actually does my homework and score a 50, and it would have been better for me if I didn't do the homework at all. How is that make sense? It doesn't make sense at all, and that's something that I think should be changed.
And this is in public school too, by the way.
No,
it's happening because I've seen some of the like the English papers that my fiance grades, and it's a joke. And it's so much so a joke that I wasn't the best student, and I'm sure neither were you. But at least you would write but at least you would write like 3 sentences or a paragraph or try.
Bro, I was an excellent writer.
You would actually I would actually sit and try to do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it's like this would be like, it'd just be like, haha, I don't know.
Yeah, you were telling
me. And there
me
was
about
like a full page, and the full page is blank and just empty. And like kids just want to be savages.
Yeah, they just want to be the next.
They just want to be, and nobody wants to. No kid. It's like you have this big influence. You have social media. You have so many. Quote unquote successful. I don't know. Like I don't really consider financial success the only success.
It's not.
And if you only have financial success, that money could go away tomorrow.
Yeah.
But with that being said, is you have all these people getting rich off not getting an education.
Yeah.
Just doing dumb things like that.
Yeah. Those are these kids' influencers. Those are these kids' role models.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, it's like every time I open YouTube, it's like, if you give me 2 minutes, I'm gonna show you how to make money fast. Well, with a single page website, it's like every other one is.
Every other thing is like that. And if you look back in time, if you scan back, a man in his 20s was like, could be the leader of a village. Was like a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And would have to take care of people, would have responsibilities, take care of the sick, the women, the children, food rations. You know what I mean? Like people were leaders at a younger age.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
nowadays, and this goes for men and women, but I feel like men and women are staying children longer and longer and longer.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
so it's like,
There's actually a study about that. It's like people are like millennials are staying in their parents' home until like 30.
yeah.
There's like a study on that. It's crazy. But
But that, to me, that's just, it's absurd, because pretty soon, you're gonna have like, and it's already happening, where you have like 20-year-olds who don't have the responsibility to get married. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Or like even 30-year-olds that are like, I wouldn't say that far, but it's like young people just don't know what they want to do with their life, don't have a purpose in life, and they just want to live whatever way they can and be quote unquote happy whatever way they can.
Yeah, it's this illusion, right? That
It's
like
the illusion,
it's
bro.
the evasion of responsibility. That's happiness. 2019. Quote me on that. The evasion of responsibility. But yeah, man.
Nobody wants to work hard, bro. And the only thing people want to work hard for is their passion. And to some extent, it sounds like a great argument,
Mm.
but I don't think it is.
Well, the thing is like, I mean, I could stand by that argument. I could stand by that argument if people were working hard at their passion.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is they're only doing the fun parts of what
Exactly,
their passion is.
exactly.
They're not doing the hard work.
Yeah.
They're-
Okay.
they-
Yeah.
they're-
I'll agree with you on that.
It's like if you're actually putting in the dirty work, right? And
Yeah.
if you're actually going, doing the things that are difficult, that are also within your passion, right? It's like then it makes sense.
And if your passion doesn't, if it's known to not have like an income associated with it,
Mhm.
then you need to find a way to like have a business mindset towards it.
I mean, I can see that too. I mean, there are some people who are genuinely have their mind set on doing something that they like
Yeah.
or doing something that they love, regardless of the,
And I don't mind that. I don't mind people
financial.
having passions. It's
Mhm.
just, I think the line gets blurred of like work and passion. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
For me personally, I prefer, in this stage of my life right now, I don't know if it'll always be like this, but I prefer to have my passion separate than work. And the reason why is because I don't want to have to, eventually hate my passion,
Yeah,
because it
absolutely.
becomes work,
Mm.
And so I like that, having that balance, because when I do get to engage in my passions, it's enjoyable, and I enjoy it so much.
For sure, that makes sense.
Okay, another kind of topic that we kind of skimmed over yesterday was, we were talking about the influence of the role models we should be looking up to,
Mm.
who are historical figures.
For sure.
Sahaba, Tabi'een, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, past prophets. We treat that, and most people treat that as quote. People use the term Bible stories, and
Tales.
pretty much, tales. Pretty much, they treat it like it's myth, like it didn't actually happen,
Yeah.
or these stories were highly exaggerated, and you get what I'm saying.
100%.
So, but that stuff actually happened. It's history,
Yeah, it is.
and people don't treat it that way. And people also, they see the Sahaba as like we can't be like them. You know what I mean? Like they were like with the Prophet. They had the Prophet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they didn't have all the influences, and every time times have changed. Times are different. We got to progress this and that. It's like those were real, genuine people.
Right, with emotions. We were saying like, these are people with passions of their own. I feel like a lot of times we forget that the human side of a lot of them.
They
right?
lived a daily life, and they had their own
Daily life.
routines.
Had their own
everything.
family issues, their own habits. Maybe some of them had stutters, favorite colors, favorite animals, like all of these things that we have, as people, ourselves. And it's like, I feel like a lot of times we forget, this super important connection between, human beings. Is that we all go through our own situations, and we all have emotions and stuff like that. And I feel like if we remember that, then it's much easier to really put yourself in someone's shoes, you know what I'm saying? Or at least connect with them in some way. But I really like the point that you had brought up. It's like whenever we talk about these stories, it's like, if you think of it as a fantasy story, right? Or you think of it as this like this I don't know, this
It's
artificial,
entertainment. If you treat it as entertainment,
right? Then it's like,
and you
of
don't
course,
add
by
any
the
life
end,
value to it, then you're not gonna gain anything from it.
just like any movie, right? At the end of the movie, you know, like, okay, that was a horror movie, and it's like I might be shaken up a little bit, but in 2 weeks, I'm not scared anymore because I know that Jason is not gonna be, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like if we that's why I think a lot of people do appreciate true stories more. You remember those stories a lot more because, as soon as it says true story and people market it like, oh, true story,
Oh
based on a
yeah,
true
and,
story.
and like you'll have whenever there's like a seminar or a talk,
Mm-hmm.
and a speaker gives like his life story or like
Mm-hmm.
my journey to Islam or
Right.
something
People
like
are
that.
tearing up,
People
crying.
are crying and tearing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you talk about, the Sahaba that, suffered, that lost their limbs,
Right,
lost their
right.
lives for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for Islam and for the sake of Allah,
During Jumu'ah, they're
yeah,
freaking yawning.
everybody's
and
yawning, going to sleep. Like,
Crazy.
it's actually insane.
Mm.
And, I feel like a lot of the excuses we make, we don't have the right to make them. So, for example, something that always bothered me as a kid, because after I, learned the story of how how some of the Sahaba died in prayer, and a lot of times, or didn't die, but were wounded while they were praying.
Mm-hmm.
I was always like, why are these like uncles complaining whenever they hear like a little kid running in the background, which I zone out. I don't even pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whenever
people get like stabbed and while they're bleeding out, still continuing their
To
prayer
pray, yeah.
because their concentration was so strong. So it's almost like they enjoy to like, but that's getting off topic. That's trilling. That's a different discussion for another day.
Mm-hmm. But I think just to tie it all back together, it's like, these are the people, the people that you spoke of. It's like even that story right there, we have to understand. It's like those Sahaba, the khushu that they had, it's like they're real people, just like you and I. We're not talking about Rasulullah, right? And it's like Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's like we're not talking about. Some people might be a little turned off. It's like, oh, I'll never be like that, for sure. You'll never be like that. But that's not to say that you can't try. And I feel like a lot of adults.
The way I see it is like whenever you're trying to be like the Prophet ﷺ, it's like, he was perfect in every aspect.
Right.
So even though you may not be perfect in every aspect, you may actually be perfect or close to perfect in one of those aspects.
Right.
And that's an achievement.
Absolutely.
And so if you break it up like that, and treat it like that, then you'll actually have like the medals to show for it on the day of judgment. You know what I mean? And in this life too, people, if you're a trustworthy person, people respect you for that.
Yeah,
the same way that even the Prophet's enemies respected him for it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So backtracking a little bit on the main topic on parenting. Do you think there is a line when it comes to I guess the term spying, like spying on your kids?
This is the thing, man. Like, I have an extremely biased opinion when it comes to parenting, and I think it's just because of the way that I was brought up. So I moved around a bunch.
Yeah.
My father grew up a church boy. He's Christian. My mother Christian. And so I feel like in some ways my father was maybe extra hard on us, because I don't know. I think he just wanted to. I think that he felt, in some ways, like honored or just extremely proud to say that he was a Muslim now.
Yeah.
And he wanted us to appreciate like us being born Muslim. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think that he like wanted us to like really, really, really like appreciate how much of a blessing that is to be born Muslim. And so my dad was very rough, very rough on me, cause I was the only son like living with him. So yeah, my dad used to do everything, bro. Like I used to get the crap beat out of me, like crazy, dude. I remember one time, my dad's amazing.
But yeah, you don't hate him for it.
Absolutely, absolutely not. My dad's amazing. I don't want to get anything like twisted, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love my dad more than any man on this planet, right? Like, I respect him and appreciate him. But there's times where it's like this man would like choke me at the masjid. There was one time where I was like late for
That's
something.
crazy.
It was like after Jummah, and I was walking out, and my dad just like grabbed me by the neck and was like choked me and was like swinging me around. All the uncles like freaking out, like this big black dude choking this little Asian boy, right? So some of the uncles were like ran over and was like, they were like, "Oh, you can't do this! Like you can't do this." And like I was like chilling. I was like, "Man, these fools don't even know how regular this is." And yeah, like I remember just going home, and it was stuff like that, bro. I used to get like my butt beat, but you know, and if I'm being very honest, I feel like there's now, even to this day, there was one time in particular where I got in trouble for something that I didn't do,
Yeah.
and it was in my family. One of my siblings actually had blamed, or they didn't blame something on me, but I felt like
I think you told me this.
they blew it out of proportion.
Yeah. It was the
and-
extended family.
No, it was somebody in my
okay.
immediate family, would like made a big deal out of something, and she was actually the one I feel like who was wrong about it, and I ended up getting in so much trouble for it. But I didn't speak up because I was like, as soon as I have my opportunity to speak, I'm gonna like show all these fools. But I never got a chance to speak, so I ended up getting in trouble, and I got beat like crazy that day. And it like got to the point where like my family had to like call the police. And like,
What age were you when this happened? Were you a teenager, like young
yeah,
teen?
young
or
teen,
late
maybe like
teen?
14. I was like
Okay.
14, but I remember, bro, like after that day, I had like a bit of like
A chip
hate,
on your shoulder.
a little bit. Like I wouldn't call it like hate. I wouldn't go that far, but there was a part of me that like
Did they ever like learn the truth later on? Or did you
Uh,
ever speak up about it later on?
no, I think that it was just there was so much drama surrounding that situation. I never like
That's crazy, man.
But I did tell my sister, and I was like, you know, like I just want you to know, like for sure, this is your fault. But it was so crazy. Like police came, my sister was crying, like, the police didn't come. Like my parents actually like got into it because it was like so crazy, and then my sister like tried to like break it up between me and my father. Then she's crying, and it was just crazy, bro. And I was thinking in my head, like, it's so crazy that this just happened to me, and it was not my fault.
Yeah.
But after that day, I felt like in a lot of ways, or at least in some ways, my relationship with my family, my entire family, it changed. And to this day, like, I never forget that. And that's a part
That's
of me is
crazy.
still in that to this day. And that's like freaking 10 years ago or something.
For me, when I was a kid, I used to get hit until about like middle school. I think is when I stopped getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
So elementary school, like
That was the last time I ever got hit.
was like
That time.
yeah.
But real quick, the reason why I even said that story is because it's like, I feel like my parents were very rough on me, and I think because of it
Is why you're biased.
is why I'm biased, but in a good way. I think that, you know, me and my father's relationship maybe isn't as tight as it would have been if he didn't do those things, but I
Yeah.
still appreciate him for it,
Yeah.
because it's like, not even to toot my own horn, but I don't know like a lot of people that treats their mother the way that I treat my mother.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is a direct reaction to the way that my parents, you know,
Had their relationship.
treated me. You know,
Okay.
they really like disciplined me. It's like respecting the women in my family and taking care of them was a very, very important lesson that I like
Yeah.
was like instilled very young. So it's like, I appreciate it for him. I appreciate him for it. You know, at whatever the cost is, I think it's much more important. I think that, you know, this may be the thing, or it may be something that helps me get into Jannah. And it's like, if
Yeah,
that's the case, then it's
inshallah.
like, do whatever you need to do to like get that in your kid. So that's why I think I have a bias towards it. It's like, maybe the relationship between a parent and a child is not supposed to just be buddy
Yeah.
buddy. I don't agree with that.
For me, it was like I used to get hit when I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, just wooden spoon on the hand, like on the knuckles, just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I never, but I never really, I don't know, like that I was afraid of that when I was a kid, but later in life and even till this day, it's like if my parents are disappointed in me,
Mm-hmm.
especially my dad, if he's disappointed, it's the worst feeling. Like you can't go
Yeah,
to
for
sleep
sure.
tonight. Like, and it, I feel like that was always more gut wrenching
Then
than the beating.
spanking. Yeah.
because you know, because we were instilled in us when we were a kid. That's like you have to please your parents if you want to go to Jannah.
For sure.
You know, and so
Yeah.
it's like you don't want them to go to sleep without, you know, until they forgive you. Because what if they don't wake up?
Yeah.
And so how do you get kids to think like that? But earlier, like going back on track, when we were talking about the spying, so it's like at what level, like, because yesterday when we were kind of like just talking about what we wanted to talk about, you can pick it up.
Assalamu alaikum.
What's up?
What's the word, brother?
Where'd you go, bro?
Brother, I went to your house.
No, you didn't.
You know what we're doing right now?
What are you doing?
My pie.
You're my pie?
My We're my pine, brother. I got you up to the microphone right now. You have something to say?
Nah, bro. I was just trying to figure out where you went. I saw you for a second and then you disappeared.
Yeah, I left. You were smelly.
We both know that's not true.
It is not true, brother.
Are you with Muhammad?
He is here with me.
Tell him I said Salam.
That's all I did. That's all I got.
I'm gonna call you back after, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, brother. All right, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
That's all I got, brother.
What's up?
You were telling me yesterday that you don't want your kids to have a smartphone until they were like
Bro, this is the thing. It's
until they
like-
were 18 or something like that. But I was telling you that it's like they're gonna get exposed to that stuff regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like the way I hopefully want to do it is they're gonna have a smartphone, but I'm gonna know everything that goes in and out. Every single page.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna know what they're looking at, you know, what they're doing, what kind of videos they're watching. Because now YouTube, even the friendly stuff is inappropriate. You know, how do you know your kid is like? You have a 5-year-old kid who's watching a cartoon or something.
Right.
Next thing you know, he clicks on a link with like a trans person doing makeup. You know.
Yeah, for
And-
sure. It's so crazy that you say that because my friend who has, he has a few boys, he was saying the same thing. He was like, yo, man, it's like all these colorful thumbnails. He's
Yeah.
like, my kids are just clicking on whatever one. It's just colorful. And then before you know it, as soon as you click on one thing, you are in a whole different area of YouTube at that point. There's
Yeah.
no way you're going back to. So, yeah, man.
So I'm gonna know what they watch, and I'm gonna if I catch them watching something they shouldn't be watching, I'm gonna approach it in an appropriate way, the same way I would approach it if I caught you watching something inappropriate.
Yeah,
I'm be like, look, it's like we're not doing none of that in this house.
for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell them to fear God, and just don't
know,
do it again, bro. Like,
For sure. But it's like, what you got to think like
it depends on what age they're at.
100%. But
if
it's
they're
like,
like 13 or something like that, I'm not gonna say it as calm as I just said it now.
mhm.
For sure. They're gonna be scared.
I'm not disagreeing you in any
Yeah.
way. All I'm saying is like, yo, I can just imagine that being a much more complex sort of situation, because 1000%, I know that there were sometimes if I'm like talking to a girl or something, right? I know 1000% my
Okay, I'm not
parents.
even talking about that though.
Yeah,
That's,
I know,
like,
but
different.
this is
Yeah.
just to put it
Yeah.
out there. It's like parents know, right?
Yeah.
Parents know what their kids are doing a lot of the times, and kids kids think that they're in the clear, and it's like parents know, they just
They just kind of They
Yeah,
feel like
they're
it's awkward or something.
or they're just kind of feeling it out, right? They're trying to figure out what sort of thing to take so that the outcome is the best.
yeah,
They
but
want
every
the best
second
outcome.
they waste,
yeah, it could be
their
be
friend is gonna keep influencing them, but they're gonna
Absolutely.
keep doing it. They're gonna fall deeper into it.
right. I think one thing that children or young adults even are naive about is like they think that their parents are idiots and that they are oblivious to what's going
Yeah.
on. It's like your parents were young once before,
Yeah.
and they know what it's like. They know who you're talking to on the phone at real quiet in your room. It's
Yeah.
like that's not
They
You're
know
not-
you're awake at night.
right. You're not Agent what's his name?
Cody
Agent
Banks.
Cody Banks, right? You're not Agent Cody Banks. But yeah, man, so I can just imagine those situations are more complex, and I feel like you have to take them, as they come. But I don't know, bro. The phone thing is just so crazy to me. And it's like that might not be a realistic situation, but I was really just saying, my kids aren't having phones just to express like how I feel
Yeah.
about.
And I know a guy that's raising their kids, and
Yeah,
his
you were
kids don't
telling me
even
about
know
that.
about what iPads or anything like that. He doesn't have internet in his home. He just
Insane,
has
bro.
LTE on his phone to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
to do his
crazy.
thing.
How is his kids? How are they?
I mean, they were still very young.
Mm.
They were still like 8,
I think
7.
that's fine, bro. I think that's
I
super
think he knows what
appropriate.
he's doing,
I
and
think
it
so.
sucks because like a single father raising 3 kids. The
That's crazy.
mother was got hooked on drugs, and so he
Man.
just took custody, and like he was telling me like all these things like how like because he got into a bunch of debt,
Yeah.
and so he was like explaining like how he lives his life now and how he like he's part of some I forget his name, Dave Ramsey. After he gave me the book right there.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
That's it. That's him.
no, not him, but Dave Ramsey is the guy he like follows
Oh, okay.
about like getting out of debt and all that stuff, and
Oh, okay.
it's just like inshallah, like may Allah like lead him towards Islam,
So, I
bro.
mean,
Because like some people are just like open-minded and just strong-willed people. I feel
Yeah.
like that stuff kind of what do you call it, resonates with people like that.
yeah, I think so for sure.
Um,
But you said something, it's difficult to be like a single parent, and that's
Yeah.
actually one of the things that children are so important, bro. Like raising your children with,
you have
bringing
to be
them
in
up
every aspect of their life.
every aspect, and you have to instill like the Islamic,
The love for
the love for Islam in your kid organically and authentically. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so one of the ways I think to do that, and which is super important at this age in particular, is your partner, your spouse. That's like such a big deal. I feel like a lot of people are choosing, women that I feel like they're not really considering what kind of mother this person is going to be to their children. And that's a big deal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's your kids on the day of judgment, some of them will be blaming you
Yeah.
for some
Picking
of the things
the
that
wrong mom.
exactly. It's like or not giving them the appropriate, the rights that they have,
Yeah.
on you in Islam. And so it's like, man, I feel like people should really, really consider that. Like having kids is a big deal. It's like a very big,
Because
very, very
it
big
could
part of your
lead
life.
to like generation of sin falling back on you, or or hasanat and like ajr, like
Exactly, man. You raise your kids the right way, and it's like, man, there's a hadith. Actually, I don't want to
misquote.
misquote, but I've heard something similar to this, where it's like if you raise 2 good children up, 2 good daughters up, there's like a huge benefit for raising two daughters, like in Islam, like
I
in
heard
the fold of Islam.
about one daughter. I heard the same thing. Like I don't remember what it was exactly either.
Yeah,
But
we'll
it was
try to
but I
look it
remember
up.
after I heard it, it made me want to have a daughter.
I remember
'Cause-
after I heard it too, it made me want to have a daughter, but it also kind of opened my eyes. It's like, man, like having daughters is a big
It's tough.
deal. That's
It's
a big deal, man. That I was thinking about that last night and yesterday when we were
It's-
talking about it. It's
so
like,
tough
man, it's so
because
scary.
Nowadays, it's like, a lot of stuff that's considered fun for these kids nowadays they can't do, like traveling, for example. And it's
Yeah,
like,
man, that's rough.
and it's
And the thing is like, especially in this culture, it's like that's all girls want to do is
they
travel.
just have fun and like travel, live their life. They don't want to be tied down.
Yeah,
That's
you know
a
what I
huge
mean?
word.
And
it
the
sucks.
crazy thing is, like, a lot of them are capable. I feel like it's like, but it's like, man, you see, or at the very least, it's like you see people, especially women, young women, doing it successfully.
Let me, just in case people like misunderstood, it's like traveling alone, or just girls traveling alone. It's not just
Yeah.
traveling. I don't want people to misunderstand.
Women
Like,
can't move.
Yeah, you
Women
can't move.
can't
You stuck
move.
in this room right here. You
know
better
what I'm
not.
saying?
You best not leave.
You
But
can't
no,
go
it's-
nowhere.
It's not like that.
And it's really just for protection, right? It's like the thing is, it's like
For
you don't
sure.
want your women need to be protected. In Islam, women are precious. They're like diamonds. You don't just ship your diamonds off and like, good luck.
And there's a lot of sick dudes out there. You know what I mean? So,
Crazy people out here, bro. It's insane. I was watching this Chris Hansen, like, catching the predator thing on YouTube.
yeah, a lot of
It
people
is
watch that.
insane.
Sometimes it's like they catch the same guy like multiple times, like over like the span of 3 years or something like that.
So
It's a
creepy.
disease. Like they can't stop. It's sad.
Bro, it's difficult for me to watch them sometimes. Like the guys that come in and they're just
What
like,
they say
ugh.
and like
And it's like, yo, this kid's 13 years old and you're tripping.
yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know, bro. I just feel like a little bit backtracking a little bit, like, choosing a spouse, like I feel like people need to understand that a lot of the like Islam needs to be in your everyday life as a Muslim.
I think it's important to like, because a lot of the fun nowadays, a lot of it is like, through Western tradition.
Mm.
So it's like, the holidays, for example. So in order to instill like the love for the love of the deen in your kid, you have to instill in them like an Islamic like seed, something. So when I was a kid, for example, Eid was amazing. Eid was so much fun.
Yeah, heck
Like
yeah.
I got to pick gifts out for my friends, and like for me, and stuff like that. As a kid, you'd be like, dude, Eid is way better than Christmas. I used to think that when I was a kid all the time.
I didn't
It's
even
like
care about. I didn't even know what Christmas was, bro. Our Eids used to be so live.
they were amazing, like big
Go
gatherings,
downstairs.
parties, yeah, and-
Freaking presents wrapped up.
yeah. So that played a huge impact
Huge
on me
yeah,
because
for me
I
as
didn't
well.
need no Christmas. I didn't need no Halloween. On Halloween, all we did is like instead of like, oh, you want to go around and knock on people's door and just get a little bit of candy. It's like I'll just buy you. My dad was like, I'm just gonna buy you a big bag of candy, and we're
Yeah.
just gonna eat it at home and watch movies.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like
That's a major thing. I think a big parenting tip, just from a non-parent. I actually heard this from Brother Iad like a couple of weeks ago, and this is super important. I think that it's overlooked. It's like, as not just for parents, I think just for even friends, or if you have a family, or if you have, a partner. A major thing in Islam is like, we feel like we're sort of handicapped in this Western society, right? It seems almost like, oh, we can't do a lot of things, but it's not true. Really, the solution is to provide
alternatives.
alternatives. That is what the solution is. Brother Yad was saying, why is there no McDonald's, like Islamic halal McDonald's for the kids? There isn't an Islamic kids restaurant out here.
There's not a lot of
Go ahead.
there's not a lot of activities, to do later, at the day. So
Yeah.
that's why most Muslim kids just hit the hookah bar up.
Yeah, you know what I
it's
mean?
'cause
We
there's-
have to provide
'Cause
alternatives.
there's nowhere else for them to go,
Mhm.
other than somebody else's house or whatever.
Absolutely.
We good?
All good.
Another thing was we kind of skimmed over yesterday was when it comes to and this kind of I mentioned it earlier, but the main influencer in your kid's life is gonna be whoever is their closest friend is,
Yeah.
and if you're not their closest friend, you either better try to be or know who is their closest friend.
You mean as a parent?
Yeah. So if
I'm not feeling that, bro. It's like, well, this is just. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, and if you can't be their closest friend, then you better invite their closest friend over rather than
Get
your
to
kid
know 'em.
going to their house. You get to
Yeah.
know them. You try to influence their friend,
Mhm.
and if you can change their friend, your kid will change.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
obviously, some people just aren't gonna get that connection with their parents. Some people
sure.
do.
Yeah.
Some
yeah,
people
yeah.
do. They do everything with their dad or whatever. They play video games. They go hunting.
Yeah.
They do everything with their dad. And they can make the same jokes they can make with their parents, with their friends. Some
Yeah.
people have that kind of
For
relationship.
sure. For sure. Some of those kids are bad as hell.
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Yeah, that's true.
know?
I see
So
that.
it's like but at the same time, that kid is gonna listen to what their dad says over what their friend says, regardless.
Yeah, you have that certain respect for your parents.
Yeah.
I can think of like 3 or 4 kids that have that relationship with their parents, and it's like those kids are bad as hell.
And I could think of kids that have that relation that are
They're
good. Yeah,
I
so-
think I've only experienced just the top 2 or 3 that I'm thinking of are just like not. I mean, they're not bad kids, but it's
Mhm.
just like my kids are not hanging out with their kids.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But but yeah, man, like I think that's super important. Like getting to know your
Because you
kid.
can't tell your kid don't hang out with that kid. A lot of parents do that.
Absolutely.
It just makes me want to hang out with that kid more. I don't know what it is, but it's like, but
yeah, for sure. That I mean, I get that too. I think
because then
what I
I
was
feel
saying-
bad for him, and I'll be like, no, this kid's cool. Like, what are my parents talking
the thing
about?
is like I feel like that's why it's very important in the beginning, because what I was gonna say is like I think a lot of parents, well, I've seen from just my friends and their parents, it's like the Islam is not in their parent
Yeah.
in the parents. You know, the Islam is not there. They're at work all day, and then they come home, and the husband and the wife are fighting, and you know the father's not praying, and so the kid's not gonna pray. And so even if you take that kid and put him in Islamic school,
Yeah.
what good is it? You know, what good is it if there's no reinforcement back at home? And then if all the kids are like that, then it's just like you're just putting a bunch of kids with no reinforcement, no Islamic values in one place, and now they're talking about whatever they need to talk about. And so that's a big deal. Is like, for me, that's like a huge thing. It's like, don't have kids until you feel like you're ready, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you know, there may be a time where you feel like, okay, you're never ready, but at the very least, I think at all times you need to be working towards, like, you know, your Islam needs to be something that you're focused on, especially when you have kids, because it doesn't matter who you are as a parent. In the beginning stages, you are their biggest role model, right? It's like in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
And then I think that it's important that if the Islam is there in the beginning, then hopefully you can expect them to choose the right friends, you know? That way you're not worried about who their friends are. Of course you want to get to know them, but now they're choosing on their own good friends, you know what I mean? And like, I feel like for me, that was like a good thing for me. It's like I went to public school 4 years and I didn't see y'all at all, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just hanging around, and I was like a popular kid, and so there was a lot of kids that I felt like wanted to like hang with me, and I would sort of hang out with
Was
them.
this high school or middle school?
High school.
Okay.
And I remember like junior and senior year, it was like I would hang out with a lot of these kids, but deep down it's like there was not real connection because I knew who my friends were, and it was like I hadn't seen y'all in like a long time, and we weren't like close, especially me and Abdulrahman. I feel like we weren't like seeing each other for maybe a year or something, 2 years even. But it's like still at the end of the day, it's like I know what's important to me, and so it's like after high school, it's like I don't talk to none of them fools anymore.
You know what's funny
Well,
is I felt I was still close to high school friends,
mhm.
but at the same time, I knew who my real
The
real
homies
homies
were,
were.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's how it is. But it's like, I feel like I owe that a lot to my parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like they are the ones who
I
sort
hung
of
around the
gave.
masjid a lot.
Yeah,
like,
they're
all
the ones who
time.
kind of gave me the criteria for. It's like, listen, kid, you know, you don't want to be around these kids. These kids are losers. These are the cool kids. You know, the kids that actually care about their health. They care about their Islam. They care about their education. And so those are the people that I thought were the
Like,
coolest.
you know what's crazy is I feel like when I look back,
Mm-hmm.
there was a bunch of kids my age, you know?
Yeah.
So when I look at like the younger kids at the masjid now, like the really young kids,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see a lot of them. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
no,
but when you think about it,
there was a ton of kids. Like,
yeah, there was a ton
and
of
it's,
us
it seems
running
so
around.
weird now.
And but I'm talking about ton of kids always at the masjid.
No, I know
You know what I
exactly what you're
mean?
talking about.
So
like,
it's like, of course,
Friday
there's like
nights.
the Cub Scouts and all that, and there's
Yeah.
those little kids. But yeah, you know what I'm talking
you
about.
should be
So it's
popping.
like if I was like one of those little kids now, I feel like I would be a completely different person, you know?
Yeah, maybe, man.
So it's just crazy to think about.
You know, that's the thing, though. You know, every generation is going to get
It's
worse.
going to be different in its own way, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like the amount leaves, you know, every generation a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and it's like we're building huge messages that are empty, you know,
Yeah.
all the time.
I was talking to somebody about that today. He was talking about like, you know,
That's a sign
like
of their judgment.
expansion. Yeah. We're talking about like the masjid, like, you know, what's the space? Does it need to be like? And I was like, I was telling them they honestly don't even need to make this prayer hall any bigger, because the fact that it's empty for all 5 prayers, like there's no like 90%, 99% of the time the masjid is empty. It's
Making
like
it
why
bigger
are
is
you
not
gonna make it
fill
bigger for
yeah.
for an hour or whatever, an hour a week?
Yeah.
You know, and if it does get that big, just use the gym.
Right.
you
right,
know?
Right.
So like for Eid and all that.
But yeah, I don't know. I think one of the things that I feel like I'm betting on the most is like, man, like I feel like, you know, our friends and we sort of like help each other out a lot.
Exactly, and I was just thinking that in my head. Like we were all going through the same issues, you know.
Yeah.
All our parents hit us, you know, as we
Yeah.
all prayed. We all prayed together because
Mhm.
our parents, you know, it forced it on
For
us.
sure.
So it's like we were all going through the same thing at the same time. So
Mhm.
now, and a younger Muslim kid was telling me about this, and you know he's a pretty good Muslim kid, mashallah. But he was telling me like, man, all like Well, first thing, I was kind of just telling him about like my life in middle school and like the harshness that I went through, getting bullied and all that.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, I don't like when I look back now, it's like that probably made me, the man who I am now. Because
Yeah, for sure.
I learned how to, defend myself, and I also kind of knew just, the harshness of bullying, and we were talking about those crazy, kids that shoot up schools, and I was telling
Yeah.
them like I kind of know what's going on in their head.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
there was a point in my life where I wanted to do harm to those kids that were, bullying me
Bullying
and
you,
hurting
yeah.
me physically and mentally and emotionally. Um, but anyways, I was kind of talking to him about that, and so he was like, first of all, thank you for like,
Opening up.
taking the hit for us, because like it was right after 9/11, so it's like, he was saying like, thank you for taking the hit,
Yeah.
and I was the only Arab kid, in my grade or whatever,
Yeah.
unless there was some kid I didn't know about, but I was totally alone.
Dang,
Like
man.
there was like, like Hindu kids and stuff like that got bullied too, but I was targeted by every race,
Yeah, heck yeah.
like black people, Asian people, Hispanic people, and mainly white people.
Yeah.
All of them would just like say, because like and I would see it sometimes, like one kid would get bullied and they would like throw the attention on me, like look at him over there, you know what I mean? And it's
dang.
like, and on the bus, like I remember one time, like I got in trouble, like a lot of trouble, because there was a kid on the bus and he was trying to get me to stand up and like say I was a terrorist. And this kid was so like entitled. He had $100 bill, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And he ripped that $100 bill in half. He was like, I'll give you $200. Like I've never seen such like
Obnoxious.
entitlement and obnoxious like spoiled kid in my life. And so I got fed up and I eventually just stood up and I yelled it. And so this little, I'm not gonna say the word, but he went home and he told his parents like, I'd like to call the cops and stuff. And instead of doing that, his parents went and came over and like talked to my parents about it. And my parents wanted to like tell the school, but I was crying, telling them not to, because there was 2 or 3 teachers that were bullying me too, that would like make me cry and like make jokes about me while I was just bawling tears out of the whole class, laughing at me. Bro, it was demented, bro. Uh, and I still remember, man, like, and that's what kind of drove me to that point.
Yeah.
But this kid was telling me that, like, he's like, man, now the Muslim kids in my school are like the influencers. Like all the Muslim kids
That's how
vape.
it is, bro.
All the Muslim kids vape. Everybody wants to be like us. It's like we're the cool kids now. And it's like that's all they do. I'm not
These
gonna
kids
say,
are gonna be someone's parents
yeah.
eventually.
It's oof.
They're gonna
my
be
God.
someone's parents, and then their kids are gonna be our kids' friends.
A big problem is a lot of parents, all they care about is their kids' financial future. Their
That's
financial.
it, man.
It's like as long as they're a doctor, as long as they long as they
everything
can
else
support,
is like whatever.
and it's sad because a lot of it kind of comes, I feel like, from like their original
Overseas,
countries, is
yeah.
like caste system and all that,
Mhm.
and just like people respect somebody with financial like gain way more than they do with religion.
Of course, bro.
And it's
The people that don't matter. You know what I mean? Those are the people.
and
that
even
respect
now
it.
it's like I did kind of like a trade school, and so even now I could tell that people kind of give me that look when I tell them like what I did for my education.
Mhm.
People are just kind of like, oh, like,
Heck yeah, man! I get that all the time. That's why I don't even tell people. I don't tell
Yeah.
people nothing.
but and I find it like disgusting, because it's like, sure, you may be making this much money a year, but you probably are like half in debt. Half these people are like
Yeah,
interest on their houses. They don't really own anything.
Exactly, dude. So
And
crazy.
we had to talk about like just ownership, but we'll leave that, ownership of
another time,
things,
so.
but we'll leave that for another time.
But yeah, man, it's really like that, and it's like, those values get passed on generation after
Yeah.
generation, and I think that's like a big deal. So
One thing we do have to keep in mind though is, a lot of prophets, like Nuh alayhi salam, and the father of
Ismail, Ibrahim,
no, Ibrahim, the one who's the brother is like who jumped him and like made it,
Yusuf.
Yusuf. I don't know why the name slipped.
What is his dad's name?
It's Hawk, I believe. I believe that was it. But
Yeah, I can't remember. I'll look it up.
but anyways, my point is that like you had a bunch of good parents who still ended up having kids who rebelled and whatnot.
Mm.
And so like
Yeah.
Noah's son, for example, was like
you're
so
right.
it's like even though we talk about all the best ways to raise your kids, at the end of the day, all you could do is like do your part and your responsibility and make dua and hope that hope that everything turns out or works out
for the
okay
best,
in the end.
for sure. But at the very least, you're right. You should do your part, and it's just, that's why I was thinking like I have to think back like. I was like, I'm gonna take this from my kid, and my kid's not gonna do this, and my kid's not gonna do that, and that's not realistic, And it's like, it's really, if it's not written for your kid to do this, or if it's written for your kid to do this.
Yaqub. He was the son of Prophet Yaqub.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Ishaq was
his brother, I think.
Yeah, it was a brother of his, I think, or even his.
I have no idea. I forgot.
Yeah, I was thinking like. But anyways, we can do whatever we want. We can plan whatever we want, but Allah has His plan, and it's gonna go like that. And of course, that's not to say like do whatever, do your part, of course.
Ishaq was, I believe, Ibrahim's son. The one who was gonna get sacrificed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah. I don't know. I think one of the things is just like, you work with your partner as a team to kind of, like influence your kid and
Yeah, Ismail and Ishaq were both Ibrahim's sons, and even Prophet Ibrahim, feared that his kids rebelling, so he always made dua against it. And there's a very famous dua against it.
One of the big things is like, you're not always gonna agree with your wife, right?
Yeah.
You're not always gonna agree
right.
with your wife, and there may be some things that you're lenient on that she's not, and there's things that she's lenient on and you're not, and this happens not even just in that situation, even in sibling situations, right? A brother may say, "Look, you can't do this," and then she's like, "Well, you do this," and then it's a problem, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you can't find compromise.
Yeah, you can't find
can't find that
compromise,
middle
right?
ground.
And it's like that's where I think Islam plays an even more important role. It's like these are the guidelines for it. So it's not my way, it's not your way, it's this way. We have to do it this way. And I think
that falls back on finding the right spouse too.
Yeah, it's big. They do have to kind of understand that.
Because if there is ever an argument, right? And my argument, and if there's an argument and we're like, well, let's see what the religion says, right?
Right.
And the religion says this way, and I'm like, all right, let's adhere to it.
And they're trying to give you a fatwa.
Yeah. And I'm like, let's adhere to it, and then the girl or the spouse or whatever is like, nah, like that doesn't make any sense. That's outdated. That's an issue. That's a red flag.
Big issue.
That's a red flag.
That's outdated.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's a red flag.
But yeah, man, and those are things that can be extremely detrimental to the kid because, obviously whatever is the cooler thing, right? If Christmas is what they want to do and their mother's saying, yeah, it's fine, and the father's saying, no, it's not, then of course the kid's going to be like, oh, I love my mother way more. She's way cooler. I hate my dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of problems with that, but I think the
worst thing you could do for your kids is divorce.
Bro, that is so crazy, right? It's like, alhamdulillah, like, man, it's so crazy, dude. It is so powerful and very, very impactful. Alhamdulillah, for me, it's like it didn't really bug me at all.
Oh, I mean, it's because you
was grown.
Yeah, you're grown. But there's kids.
My baby sister had like issues, man. Even to this day, I think she has a little bit. Like she's cool now. She's older, a lot older now. But I think at the time, it messed her up a little bit. And I know people that like it messed them up.
Dude, it would mess me up. Like,
yeah.
And it not only from like, even if my parents were like great, after the divorce, it would just mess me up because I'd be like, why can't you be together?
Yeah.
Who's this new guy? Like why can't
Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny because it's like, I feel like there's not a lot of excuses for it, because a lot of people do it for dumb reasons. And I even know non-Muslim people that stay together because it'll benefit their kids, for them to stay together. Even though like this dude was telling me, um, uh, a non-Muslim friend of mine was telling me, he's like, I don't even love this woman, like, and I hate, like, I don't even like. He's like, and the act of like, making love with her like disgusts me. But yeah.
Oh my
but,
God.
But he was like, the only reason is like, that's a sacrifice, like, for the benefit of his daughter.
Yo, that's extreme.
Bro, that's like, I mean it's extreme, but it's like he knows what's more important.
Yeah,
His
man.
desire, like, his desires are his needs, or his kid's desires and his kid's needs.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
That's crazy,
he put the two things on the table and, in my opinion, picked the right option.
Yeah, that's a man's man right there. A lot of people
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. Yeah, man. It's, what's wild?
Especially Muslim people, is because, like, all we want to do is, like, live happy in this life as much as possible.
That's crazy, man. It's so wild, right? You really just have to just do your best, My oldest sister has 6 kids right now, bro.
That's crazy.
Or 5, 6 or 5. I can't 5 or 6.
Are
Yeah.
those your crazy nephews and nieces and
Yeah,
all that?
all that.
Okay.
All of them. But the thing is like they're good kids, and they live in St. Louis, and it's like that's one of the freaking worst places to grow up. And it's like, you know what I mean? There's no father in the, she doesn't have like a husband, and she's just, just doing her best. And the kids are not bad kids; they're good kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's
They're
like,
just kids right now.
But there are certain values that kids have. That it's like,
Yeah.
that's a
Some
good
kids
kid.
will start talking back at a very young age,
one of the-
especially in those kind of urban communities.
One of the biggest things for me, I think this is a huge test that kids have, and you can really sort of, like, I don't know, tell what kind of kid that person is like lying, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the number one thing that kids just do. Like, kids just freaking lie. Did you do this? Did you spill this over? No, and they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good kids will be like, you know what? I did spill that over. You know what I mean? That's just like, her kids do that. My nephews, they'll tell her like
That's
it is.
surprising, man.
Surprising. And it's good.
I
She whips her
lied
kids,
a
but
lot, bro, when I was a kid, because
I did not lie, bro. I was so scared.
Bro, it's like, I remember, like, and I used to tell the truth when I was a kid. I was always taught telling the truth,
Yeah.
and then actually school made me lie.
Really?
Because whenever I told the truth once, I got in a huge trouble for something.
Damn.
So, and I saw other kids get away with things. So I just started lying, and it worked out for years. You know what I mean?
real?
Yeah, and it's a sad thing, but it's like I used to just, like, all the time, and it got to a point where I even started bringing it in the house.
Damn.
I remember
Rough.
I've never told this story ever in my life because I'm, like, ashamed of it, and I was a kid. I was only, like, I don't know, like 6 years old, 7 years old or something. I don't remember, but I remember.
Hold it. I want to pause it so it doesn't cut you off.
Okay. And like, let this be a lesson for everybody, just how lying once can kind of, worsen
Snowball.
things and snowball. It's the perfect example, because, like, I remember I changed the AC, right, in the house. I changed it, right, and and this was because I always lied in school, and I got away with it no, I didn't do it. Just simple, right?
Yeah.
So my parents asked me, and man, they asked me, and I was like, "No, I didn't do it." Same thing I've been doing in school all these years. They asked my sister, she didn't do it. So my sister, my mom, my dad, all come in the room, and I'm sitting on the bed. I'd be like, if she didn't do it, then who did it? And I said, Wallahi, I didn't do it.
Oh.
And
dang.
once I said Wallahi,
they were like,
I can't go back.
Right.
So I started crying, Wallahi, Wallahi. I must have said Wallahi 8 times. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And eventually they were like, fine, it's whatever. And they just left the room. But it's like, that moment scarred me, because it's like, because like, I knew I was wrong, but I couldn't tell the truth.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. There's no way I was telling
coming
the truth.
back from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny is a lot of people are like that like adults are like that.
Yeah,
Especially
bro.
people who lie about something huge, like for example sexual assault or rape
And
allegations.
they're just like, no,
There's
bro,
no
yeah.
way that they can tell the truth after that. Like one, and it might start off as like a small lie, just to tell their friends, or like, or they're just looking for attention once, right?
Mm,
Like they just want a little bit of attention, so they tell it, right?
yeah.
And the people around them is like, dude, you need to take that up,
Yeah.
and somebody else will take it up for them, and now they have to stick by it.
Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And the parents are mad. The parents want money out of them. They want, they're suing the school system.
And now it's like, no way you can
So
go back now.
yeah, there's no way you can go back after that.
That
and
is
it's
crazy
like
as heck. Yeah, man, that's a
super
big deal.
crazy.
That is a big deal. But I think that's actually one of the things that I feel like, inshallah, I'm going to focus on is like, man, the communication between parent and child, whether it be, friends, like you said, or to me, I don't know about the friends thing. I'm going to love my kid to, amazing. And I'm going to have a good relationship with my kid. But it's like there's a certain amount of respect that my
There's a
kid
line.
owes.
Yeah, there's a
Absolutely.
line. Like
My kid is not going to call me by my name. My kid is not going to, just be able to walk in any kind of way. My kid is not going to be able to just
I'm gonna be more
like,
laid back
shut
than that,
up, Dad.
probably. Oh heck no!
No,
like heck no.
But there are
It's
some
like that.
people that it's like, it's funny. It's like, oh, shut up, Dad. Like, heck no, bro. I will punch you in your jaw, little boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because it's like you can't. I think it's very important to establish that just on a small level,
but
because whenever things get serious, it's like
I would
your
never
kid needs-
say like even like shut up to my spouse. You know what I mean?
Absolutely
Like,
not.
You know
Yeah,
what I
for
mean?
sure.
So it's like
That's the same thing. Like,
what's crazy is like I don't even think I say that word.
shut up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I don't think
like
it's not really in your everyday.
it's not in my
vocabulary.
everyday vocabulary because growing up as a kid, that was one of the worst words we could say.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah, no, same for us.
Was
Same
saying
for
shut
us.
up. It was
We
super
couldn't even
rude
say
and
fart, dude. We were not allowed to say
That's
fart.
funny.
We
but,
had to say poot.
That's crazy. Like you couldn't say like sex. Like you couldn't say a lot of words. I remember one day my brother. Do you remember this? Do you remember? No. He was like Muhammad, my socks are sexy, and then I was like, oh, like we used to tell on each other, and I told on him. He got in trouble, but I don't know why he said that. Until this day, like I always like found humor in other. Do you remember when you said that? Like, why did you say that? Why did I tell on you? Like,
No, I do not remember that at all.
but yeah,
But
that
yeah,
was crazy.
nah, I think communication is super important. It's like if your kid can tell the truth to you, that is a triumph. I think, even
I
in
was-
difficult situations.
I was more open with my parents after the fact, like after they were like, like way later in life is when after I like, once I straightened myself up, I just want to let you know that I used to do these things, but I learned from it and I grew from it, and I'm never doing it again.
for sure.
Uh,
For me, I've always been the type of man. I felt very independent very early on. Maybe like 16. Like I felt pretty like I don't need my parents. I know what's right and wrong. I'm not stupid. And so there's a lot of things that I feel like I've done that I haven't told my parents, and I don't think I ever will. And I think it's just because it's like I know. I already know, and I don't need.
and
to
you
tell.
don't have to, like
Yeah,
you shouldn't tell all your sins to everybody.
I don't tell my sins to nobody. Like,
Yeah.
not even my closest friends, nothing like that. I just don't repeat them. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
But the thing is like the important thing is I think that I could tell them. I would feel comfortable telling them. And I don't think that my kid should have to tell me. I don't think my kid needs to tell me. I just want it to be known by him or her that, this is wrong, and
Yeah.
I shouldn't do it again. And I should be, I'm comfortable with telling my parent if I needed to. You know
I'm
what
at
I
a
mean?
point in my life where I feel like if something is like, something is like Islamic or something is like religious,
Yeah.
or like, if Islam says to do things one way, if the whole entire like planet, the community around me, it's like says otherwise, or like majority of people say otherwise, like I'm not gonna care what they think, and that's with a
Heck
lot
yeah.
of things. So if my sins get exposed to people, it's like sure it'll suck, but I'm not gonna care because at the end of the day, it's between me and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala.
Yeah, I get
You know what I mean? So it's like, and how can I instill that same thought process, like not caring about what other people think?
That is
know?
something I think that grows with time. It's like, man, I've been a confident person forever. Like, I've always been like, even I was a Muslim in
Yeah.
public school, and like I used to be able to tell people
I
like what to do.
I
bro.
really think I remember you telling.
I used to just be like that type of person, but still, even then, I would be swayed. I
Yeah,
could still be swayed even at that, you know. And I feel like it just is something that comes with time. I don't think that you can. I mean, I'm sure there are kids out
I
there.
think
that,
what helped shape me a lot, honestly, was spending time like alone, like by myself, like
Really?
going camping, like because I would walk a lot by myself. I would think a lot by myself, and it's
Mm.
just like I don't know if camping, like camping with my dad, like created that environment of like letting me like reflect on just things around me and like life in general and like
Mhm.
because like when I would go camping, it's a safe environment. Like all those like troubles at school and all that,
So you feel like,
it's like
being alone did what for you?
it just helped me kind of think think for myself a little
Independently?
bit.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
For
because
sure.
like I don't
Okay.
remember when exactly I started like really thinking for myself,
Mhm.
but I do remember that there was a time whenever I just like opened up like and it wasn't like sure like me becoming more independent, like thinking more independent was gradual, but the moment I realized it was instant.
Okay.
But I just don't remember that moment, but I remember I don't remember when that moment was, but I remember it happening. I remember thinking like I'm in control now. Like
People could not sway me, dude. Like I remember going to like parties, bro. Like we used to go
Yeah.
to these parties all the time,
mhm.
like big time, and like yeah, I used to go to like these parties sometimes, and like this is in high school, and there would be alcohol, there would be drugs,
Yeah.
there would be girls, and it's like, man, I was never like nobody could tell me anything. Like if they were like, "Yo, you want to hit this or you want to like drink this?" I'd be like, "Nah,"
Mhm.
and they'd be like, "Come on, man," and I'd be like, "No, like you can
Yeah.
say this all night, and I'm gonna tell you no every time." Just like it wouldn't even like tempt me. Like I don't know why, but
You
on
know,
the flip, what's up?
I was gonna say like, what's like a huge influence, like what affects kids like going to college nowadays, is like the kids doing that kind of stuff in today's like standards are like good kids, like they're
Mm,
smart kids, like nerds and stuff like that, like,
mm,
and they're like in the dorms, like smart kids,
yeah,
but they're still like hitting the blunt or they still drinking, especially.
for sure.
It's like so everybody drinks, so it's like there's these like Muslim kids that are being sent to schools, like colleges, and they're like, these aren't the kids that my parents told me not to hang around.
Mm.
These are good kids. These are kids who are smart.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
are like, and they're doing this.
I can see that, but that's actually what was my next
Yeah.
point. Is like I was gonna say on the flip side. So I could never be swayed by a man or a group of guys. It could be 20 people and they could be
Yeah.
pushing me, and I'll be like, no, you will have to fight me before I do that. But then we would be doing some other things, right? And nobody would say anything to me, and I would just see it, and I'd be like, I want to try that, or like I want to
Yeah.
go do that with them. You know what I mean? And I feel like maybe that was like a little bit of shaitan, or I don't know what it was, but it was like seeing people like enjoy.
Yeah.
Like nobody was really intentionally trying to get me to do something, and I would still
And I
be
feel like,
swayed by
I
that.
feel like that's when it's the most like powerful. Is
Yeah.
like when it's like when you don't realize it, when it's like
Yeah,
subconscious
for
peer
sure.
pressure.
For sure, man. Like I remember I used to just like not beat up people, but just like, bro, we used to just be super aggressive, man. Like I don't know, man. Like I remember one time. No, I'm not gonna tell this. But it's just like, man, like there are some things that I feel like now the person that I am now would have hated that kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like don't
I
know,
was
bro.
definitely like I tried so hard to fit in when I was younger, but now it's like the opposite. Is like the same thing. Like
Dude,
you could tell me
so
anything,
weird.
but
Yeah, I was the same way in that way, but I was never. I was so I would like to fit in, but when I was fitting in, I was like the coolest kid in that group. Now all of
Yeah.
a sudden, and you had said something yesterday. You were like, you're not really being fake or like changing who you are.
oh yeah,
You're just sort of adapting to that environment so that everyone feels comfortable. I feel like that's what I would do a lot. I don't really do that anymore, just because it's like I don't know. I'm very comfortable with the people that I'm around, and it's like it does take a little bit of energy to just be like super excited with people that you don't really care about that much. But I don't know, bro. Like I think even now I still have growing to do, But I think as a kid, I think that's just something that you go through as a kid. You know what I mean? You just sort of finding yourself, for like lack of a better phrase or term. But and I think that having a huge thing in that is like having people with you, whether it's friends or family. You know, having people to sort of remind you like who you are, or at least what should be important to you. I think that's very helpful. Because in high school, bro, I was so alone, bro. Like, it was crazy. I was so alone.
I think another aspect of my development, honestly, like what made me have a lot of love for the dean was just the talks I had with my dad, just driving, especially on our way to Fedger and on our way home. So like those to me were like the most eye-opening, like influential, talks. And it wasn't just about like love for the dean. It's also about just history in general. It's like Middle Eastern history, and and just all everything that kind of goes on in the world that I feel like kids should know about that
Sure.
that aren't necessarily Islamic, but it ties in a way.
Yeah, for sure. It's so crazy, man. Like, we were talking before, and it was like a lot of the things in our childhoods are the same, but some things are so different.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember any like talks like that with my dad. It was very like hands-on, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Very hands-on. It's like he would show me, this is important. Of course, there was a lot of like he gave me
Yeah.
lectures, and we went to Jumu'ah and we went to Fajr and stuff like that. And we were in the masjid a lot. Like, I was in the masjid a lot. But I think very early on, he was like, kind of took the training wheels off. I think maybe like 10, bro, 12 even. It was like now he sort of provided me with the fundamentals like early on, and it was like kind of like pushing it like, yo, this is this. And then after like 12, it was like pretty much I knew what was right and wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like even to this
Generally
day,
speaking. But
Generally
obviously,
speaking.
you don't know like small things.
as far as the
Yeah.
knowledge, as far as like accumulating knowledge, that that's still something even to this day that I'm working on. But it's like my dad I don't see my dad on a regular basis, and it's still there are teachings that he taught me as a kid that I apply every day, to my everyday life. So it's, yeah, man, I feel like that's so crazy. There's proof that there's not just one way of parenting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's many different ways, but
It was because like I could ask any question, and I would always have, an amazing explanation for it.
yeah,
Like, why don't we do this or this and this? Or it's like, why is this like people are doing this action, like reading Quran at this time, like for this reason? Why is this wrong? For example, like bid'ah, like certain kinds of bid'ah.
yeah.
Like, why is it wrong?
Certain sunnahs, you're not
Yeah,
supposed to.
well,
Not
you
sunnah.
can't call 'em
Certain
sunnahs.
prayer, like
Yeah.
additional prayers.
That kind of thing. Like, why is that wrong? Why is this wrong? And it's like I'd always have an amazing explanation, and I would always have a story to back.
Ideally,
not a story, but it's like I would always there would always be hadith and stuff to back it up.
in a perfect world, in my opinion, that is the way that I would want to be
Yeah.
with my kid. Is like be able to really explain to them
Because it makes you realize, like, man, this religion really has it all figured out.
everything
It's
on
like-
every level.
It's
Yeah.
like sure that there is stuff that that it's up to like scholars to kind of come to conclusions about in gray areas, but if you look at the big picture, Islam in the big picture, it's like it teaches you how to do everything,
sure,
like
man.
from like etiquette, cleaning yourself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Till this day, I don't really I never really told people this, but it's like anytime I like use a restroom, I
Mhm.
always clean the toilet, like
Mhm.
the seat before and after,
For sure.
especially before. If
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
duty
yeah.
on the seat, I clean it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I'm in public, anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the type of person to be like, this is disgusting. Like,
Mhm.
unless it's like overkill, But
But
it's
somebody
like,
went ham in there.
but usually if there's like piss on the seat and all that, I clean it. Like
Yeah.
I must have done it like, I don't know, thousands of times. Like where
That's
I'm in public
crazy.
and it's like because I have like like I use the restroom a lot,
Mhm.
so it's like I would want somebody to do that for me. And if I see a clean toilet, like I appreciate it so much.
I think
you
you're
know?
gonna see that on. I think you'll see
Inshallah,
that,
bro.
Inshallah.
But-
I'm like,
But it's
I
like,
think you'll see that, bro.
but
Okay.
I don't remember what point I was getting at, but
I clean the seats.
I clean the seats, dog. But I think what I was saying is like there is like Islam teaches etiquette.
yeah, that's what you were saying. You were
Um,
saying it's from the smallest thing.
from the smallest thing to like the biggest thing. and a lot of that also was like, you know, taught to me like at home. Like a lot of Muslim kids, like we don't, when we use the restroom, especially at other people's house, like we don't stand up when we use the toilet seat.
Yeah.
Because like you're gonna make a mess. And then whenever I'd go to like, or white people would come over, like, you know, just non-Muslim friends would come over,
Just piss all
and
over
they
the
would
seat.
like piss on the seat. It's like
They have no comprehension. It's like not even, that's so normal to them. You know what I
because
mean?
Islam isn't just a religion, it's a way of life, and it's like,
Yeah.
and it's like we don't teach that to our kids good enough. But
And they're-
anyways, I'm like,
fried.
if you want to add anything, bro?
Man, fried. 100% fried. But yeah, I mean, that was just sort of our take on just like, you know, some of just our thoughts on what bringing your kid up in the Western society is like. I know we sort of kind of went off on tangents in a few different areas, but inshallah, I hope you all enjoyed it, and we would love to hear back from you, Musa. Yeah. He probably didn't
Be
make it this far.
Probably not.
He's probably like, "Oh, it was great." No, we should test him.
Okay, yo,
Musa,
make sure you hit that like.
don't
Make
even
sure
hit the
you
like,
hit
bro.
that subscribe.
Next time,
Make sure
got
you
my
hit
number.
that bell notifications. Ding, ding, ding. Make sure you, ding, ding, ding. If you listening to this, bro, if you coming on our show, bro.
Inshallah. But Musa, if
Inshallah.
you've made it this far, inshallah, shoot me a text, bro. I want to hear from you, because I'm very sure in like 2 years you're gonna be married. You might have a kid or two.
Bro,
You gotta show us the way,
Crazy.
man. Inshallah. So yeah, but totally fried off. This is the longest one so far. I think it was pretty good though. I enjoyed this.
inshallah.
Shit. All right, so.